Kydin, this is really, really a nice narrative. Really nice title. And what you're going to have to do is use dialogue in the correct way. So when people are talking, you need to make sure you put a dialogue tag. And at the beginning, when it says we were rushing, we did not mean to lose the dogs. That's actually a reflection that they're making at the end of the trip. So add on to that, we were rushing, we did not mean to lose the dogs, said the men to each other on the way back to, and you capitalize Davenport. Later on, you'll have to look. You didn't capitalize it, but it's the same name of a city, Davenport, after a long hunting trip. So that's your flashback. You start with a flashback. And then you have to tell the reader that that was a flashback by putting the setting back in the current time. Okay, so then it all began when a couple of men were sitting around and they decided, you get rid of these because that's not, they didn't go around saying that they didn't say that they wanted to go on a hunting trip somewhere else besides Iowa. Every time you're in the past, so you're going to have to use past tense. Every time you're going to have to say went, it's in the past. Every time they went hunting, they didn't see any pheasants because in Iowa, it seemed like there were not many of them. Okay? Now here's where you use your dialogue again. Go through this and make sure that you're staying with the same narrator, okay? You're doing third person. So all of the men decided to go on a hunting trip to South Dakota. You already used so here. So don't use it again. And then don't switch to we. You were using they the whole time, so you got to keep it on they. They, and past tense. They were on their way to South Dakota. And all of them, you gotta keep it in third person. When you're saying us, it's like you're in the story, but you're telling it from an outside narrator point of view. So make sure you keep that all straight. And then when you get to this part where they lost the dogs, that's when you want your narrative. And then you did attempt it here, so that's good. But this is how you want to do it, okay? Okay, we got that. We got the 3 dogs ran off. But you have to have somebody actually saying something. So one of the guys has to say at that point, look here where you've said, you should say they started. Go back and fix that, to walk through a cornfield because there were, change that to were, normally pheasants in there. And they were about halfway through the cornfield. Let's say when instead. When 3 pheasants, and you got to keep in that past tense, flew up. Period. Let's not make that a run-on sentence. Let's put a period there. They all shot, past tense, and they killed them all. Now, this is where you use dialogue. This was a great idea. This is just a suggestion. This was a great idea, said one of the men. This would have never happened in Iowa. And these are two different pieces of dialogue, so you got to punctuate it correctly. Now we got to have the next men talk. The next man, new guy. Another man said, "Hey, wait a minute. Some of the dogs are missing." So you're saying what's happening, but you're doing it in dialogue. And then you can say, but here's the thing about shooting the pheasants. Because there were, keeping the right tense, and then you're good. You use some dialogue. Just make sure you keep in the past tense. You'll have to go through the whole thing and change it to past tense. And this is going to meet standard, and it's going to be a fantastic story. You're going to have to work at it, though. You're going to have to go through every line and make sure you're doing past tense. Good job.